Will the Detroit Red Wings overachieve in 2024-2025? An article that was published recently on bvmsports.com goes out there and gives some reasons as to how they could. This piece will be linked in the description if you wanted to go ahead and read it yourself. 5 NHL teams that could overachieve during the 24-25 year, published by Andrew Florio from BVM Sports. Now, of course, it's 5 teams. There are 5 different conversations that are written about in this article, but I wanted to dive into the one about my third favorite team in Motown, considering the fact that when it comes to the teams that I like that were closest to, but not in the playoffs, they were literally that team last season. My main Vancouver Canucks made it. They made the second round. It was great. My second favorite Montreal Canadiens were nowhere near the playoffs, and then the Red Wings were barely on the outside looking in. Thanks, John Tortorella. But either way, what the writer of this piece goes out there and says for the Detroit Red Wings is this. They're the 4th team that could overachieve in the 24-25 season. The Red Wings fell short of the postseason in 23-24, but this is a team that can surprise a lot of people this season. They do not have a lot of big game experience outside of a handful of players, and last season will make them better off going forward. Detroit was able to bring back Patrick Kane, and they also signed 2-time Stanley Cup champion in Vladimir Tarasenko. Their leadership will be key in getting this team over the hump. Lucas Raymond, 22, is coming off a breakout season in which he tallied 31 goals. The hope is that his ascent continues, and, if so, a line of Raymond, DeBrincat, and Larkin will be dangerous. Interesting. Not a line with Patrick Kane, eh? I digress. The Red Wings defense core should also have a boost this season with former top 10 overall pick Simon Edvinsson having a more significant role. Seider, the 21-22 Calder Trophy winner, has not been able to build off his rookie campaign, but he is still capable of emerging as a top NHL defenseman. Now, this is not anything new, right? Not really the most incredible, groundbreaking piece of journalism. It's a list article, for crying out loud. But what I wanted to do was go over some of these ideas and describe what it would take for the Detroit Red Wings to overachieve this upcoming year. Now, firstly, we got to get into semantics here. What exactly does overachieve even mean for a team like the Detroit Red Wings? Well, in my opinion, when you consider teams that were on the outside looking in, you want to talk about that race for the final wildcard spot between, what was it, like the Penguins, the Flyers, the Capitals, the Red Wings. I think the Islanders were in it for a little bit. A lot of teams cycling around for that final spot here. The fact is, last season's Metro and final wildcard spot race was so pathetic. Just none of these teams were able to take over and fully cement themselves as the team that belonged in that spot. That literally we had no idea who would end up in that position until the last day of the regular season. Detroit being on the outside looking in, I feel like partly was due to circumstance that the rest of the Eastern Conference just could not figure out the final wildcard, but also the fact that Detroit themselves were kind of meh. They weren't terrible, but they were not, like, amazing. They had 41 wins, 32 losses, and 9 overtime losses. Good enough for 91 points on the year. Now, 91 points, I think, in most years would be just on the outside looking in. It's just kind of nutty that this previous season, 91 points was, like, right before getting in. But if the Red Wings have themselves, let's say, a 95-point season, I think that's a realistic possibility in the eyes of most hockey fans, projecting this team to grow, to get better, to see more chemistry between Raymond and Larkin, and to see DeBrincat come back and actually revitalize his offensive productivity. We also talked about this in a video a few days ago, but the Blackhawks 2018-19 power play, which featured studs like Eric Gustafsson, Patrick Kane, and Alex DeBrincat, they're all in Detroit now. Not Jonathan Toews, that guy's not there, but either way, there are some paths of the past that are present with this year's Detroit Red Wings team, adding on to that Vladimir Tarasenko. So, with all these things combined, you think about the forward chemistry, you think about the extra defensive responsibility to a guy like Simon Edvinsson, and you project it all into getting improved results, you kind of conclude that the Wings could be in a position to maybe get a wildcard spot. They could be in a position to get 93 or 94 or 95 points. An overachieving season, in my opinion, would be minimum 100 points on the year. That's an extra 5 wins on the season, pretty much. And if you wanted to say the Red Wings storm into the Atlantic Division, they get themselves a 100-point campaign, they get the first wild card, not even the second wild card, the first wild card, or maybe they even get the third Atlantic spot. That, I think, would be an overachieving season for the Detroit Red Wings, and honestly, I think it's possible for them. A lot just needs to go right. Tarasenko needs to come into Detroit and get 20-plus goals. Patty Kane needs to have a 30-goal season, and maybe even a 70-point season. Raymond needs to have a 75 or 80-point season. Larkin needs to continue doing his thing too. DeBrincat needs to get 30 goals. Seider needs to get 50 points again. And the best part about it all is I feel like all of these numbers are pretty achievable. It just kind of has to go right for it to go right. What a stupid thing to say, but you get what I mean. Furthermore, I think the biggest thing that could add some extra value to the Wings this season, aside from goaltending, I do think that Cam Talbot is a pretty good upgrade over James Reimer from last year. Alex Lyon, of course, the Lion King still in there, is Simon Edvinsson. Because I feel like for Edvinsson, if he's able to have the season that Moritz Seider did when Seider was a rookie, then who knows how dominant the Wings could be. I don't think it's possible that Simon Edvinsson has a 50-point Calder-winning year, mostly because when it comes to role and deployment, I have a difficult time feeling like Derek Lalonde would give Edvinsson that opportunity to be a number 1 guy right away. Seider was kind of placed into the number 1 spot by default because the Wings in that time frame had nobody else to turn to. It was good for Seider. I mean, he won the Calder Trophy over Trevor Zegras because of it, but I feel like that specific circumstance was so unique and particular and tough to replicate that Simon Edvinsson having a Calder-winning year like Seider did would be maybe the biggest overachieving expectation that we could see in general. Like, if Simon Edvinsson comes in to Detroit and you're projecting him to win the Calder, he's going to have to firstly outscore all the other defensemen that exist. I have a difficult time thinking that he's going to outscore Lane Hutson, and he's also going to have a season that's much better than some of the other forwards, like Macklin Celebrini, for example. We remember the Seider versus Zegras conversation of years past, and that was all the rage back in that time frame. It was like Seider versus Zegras and Michael Bunting. Yeah, remember that? Michael Bunting was a rookie at like 1,000,000 years old. But either way, Seider ended up winning the Calder, but also he was able to win it because he was already the best defenseman on the team. I don't think Edvinsson will have the capability of being that right away, but if he does, which I'll probably put the odds of that happening maybe at like 10-15%, if he does do that, he has 50 points, he's a number 1 defenseman with Seider, giving the rest of the Red Wings D-core some time to breathe, then I feel like that makes the 100-point season for Detroit a lot more manageable. This is all possible, I'd say. It's not likely that it all combines into one perfect season for Detroit in 24-25, but I do think the fact that we can have this conversation and say that it is not completely out of the realm of possibility, that's a good sign. So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. The Detroit Red Wings in 2024-2025, what is it going to take for them to overachieve this season? And do you agree with the assessment written about in this article that it is possible? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this British Ash Roll 99. And bye.